Hello there, Johnny. Say, are you feeling hungry? Then you better check that door. It's Hungry Root. That's right, while hungry old Boris has to wait in the bread lines, you can get food delivered straight to your door from Hungry Root. And if you go to hungryroot.com and use the code 4-Star Bento at checkout, you can get 40% off your first box of Hungry Root, plus a free item of your choice for life. And Hungry Root is so simple to use, even a beatnik can do it. All you have to do is unload the box, and then follow the instructions on your mobile telephone device. Yes, Hungry Root is fast, fresh, easy, and with minimal cleanup, covering dietary restrictions from your normal red, white, and blue diet to the dietary restrictions of hippies that might not be looking for the good old red meat that you're craving. Doesn't that look good, Johnny? Thank you once again to Hungry Root. Go to hungryroot.com and use the code 4-Star Bento at checkout to get 40% off your first box, plus a free item of your choice for life.
Okay.
Kaiser!
What?
Daima done, it did.
We did this.
Diamond
we did this. It's been
It did.
done. We did this
yes,
already.
and so is Daima, and now we can talk about the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Now that we've had a week to process that it's over, that it happened, that it has been done. How you feeling?
I mean, you really want to...
You were like...
Wait. You mean about Daima? Because if you were asking in general, you don't want to know in general. About Daima...
I mean, in general, yes, as a friend, I'm concerned for you. But about Daima, yes, for the sake of this video, let's go with that.
So, I don't know if my opinion on Daima has changed much, between the last video and this one. I've definitely had a lot of time to think about it. I've talked with some friends about what they thought about the finale and the show as a whole. Which it's kind of crazy to me thinking about the fact that we've had another Dragon Ball series.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
the whole one.
Yeah, because it might be the shortest of them all, to the point where it definitely still feels like an elongated movie. But that being said, it's a whole Dragon Ball series, one whole story with Toriyama's direct involvement, and it is finished, and it's still crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I will say that it's only gotten better to me as the time has gone on. Well, some things have gotten better. I've definitely felt better about the show overall, though some things have kind of stuck in my craw a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not to the point where I feel like it's kind of ruining anything for me, but people have pointed out some stuff where, hey, this kind of feels thematically inconsistent. This doesn't make much sense. And you know, I can see it. We'll talk about it.
I know there are a lot of people out there that are concerned with the idea that this is canon, and it has been stated that it is canon, where it does not bridge the gap to Super at all. In fact, it creates so many inconsistencies with Super that you just kind of have to accept that there's some sort of a multiversal timeline, and canon does not mean what what canon used to mean, I guess.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be as H as possible here. I don't give a fuck. I don't care.
I really don't either, and I think that helps.
Yeah, because there's a part of me that gave up on that with Super. Because Super does a lot of stuff which doesn't even square with the end of fucking Z, okay? Like, you want me to believe because they talk about the gap in time that they saw each other between the end of the Buu saga and end of Z, that there's no way there was 10 years it doesn't make sense. Like, there's just so many things that don't make sense with end of Z and Super, to the point where Super doesn't square as canon, GT doesn't square as canon.
Z sometimes doesn't even square as canon. Like, inconsistencies has been a staple of Dragon Ball since its onset.
Yeah. I mean, you can always look at the manga and say, well, even with all of its inconsistencies, that is the primary canon. But if you care that much about canon, which I'm not saying you shouldn't, then like, you're just going to have to kind of deal with the fact that there are just things that aren't going to work if you want this all to work.
Yeah.
And I just think it's pointless. I think it's pointless to try and say, oh, because even Toriyama himself said that people care so much about the canon, and he just said it gets in the way of me telling interesting stories. And I think that's fascinating, because it's not something I would share personally. I would try and make sure that if I had something that was that wasn't explicitly not canon, that I would try and do everything that I could to make sure that it fits. He just didn't care. And that's fascinating to me because, it's a way to go about it. Like, I'm not bothered. It's
just wants to tell his fun, silly stories.
Yeah. And I think the thing that might upset most people about the fact that it's not canon is that they really want Super Saiyan 4 to be canon. They really want that to
be. Watch Super Anime comebacks. Like, I've been holding off on this since the Demon World. Really... I didn't think it was worth it when the whole universe was on the line, but now's the time.
Yeah, it's just don't think about how it squares with other canon, and it feels so much better. It's much more enjoyable.
It's like you can enjoy the Dragon Ball Z movies. None of them are canon.
Yeah.
None of them can be canon.
Yeah. Besides Beerus and Frieza, none of them.
Okay, yeah. Those ones are, but I mean, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The, Dead Zone through Wrath of the Dragon.
Yeah, the original Z movies, they don't work. They're also mostly bad, but not because they're not canon.
There are a few gems.
Yeah, there are gems. There are gems. We've talked about them.
Yeah, we've had whole videos on that. Feel free to watch them. Anyway, it was surprising to me how many people, like, when I posted on social media, like, that I thought that that last episode was just genuinely perfect for what we got. Like, that was the best way to cap this show. Granted, I'm probably being like a little hyperbolic. Maybe there are little things that could be improved, but fuck it, I don't care. It was gorgeous and I loved it. That how many people were like, "What? No, it was the worst. This is awful." Like, who are these people?
I'm so mad. I spent weeks shit talking this show, and then I finally get an episode where I'm like, actually, I'm very happy with this. And I got motherfuckers being like, dude, that sucked. And I'm like, you are wrong. You're just wrong. Okay, fuck this.
And they're probably the same people that were defending the things that you were angry against.
Yeah, like, that's it. Opinions are now completely objective. You're wrong. I give up. I give up. I try to be so nice, and then I get hit with this shit. Nah, I'm done.
It's absurd. It's not even you trying to be nice. It's our genuine opinion. Like, it was just a good episode, man. Like, everything popped off for it. The character moments, the animation is fucking gorgeous.
I think some of them. So I think for some of them, some of the people who were more upset with the ending, and this is all me just kind of like trying to analyze. I think the people who didn't like the ending so much were people who wanted more to pay off. I think there were some folks out there who were really enjoying those prior episodes because they felt like there was going to be some bigger payoff to a lot of the stuff that was building up. Meanwhile, I'm paying attention to how much time they possibly had left and how to tell a story in that final episode. And so I was like, we're not going to get payoff for a lot of this. We can't.
There was no way. And part of me's a little sad about it, but there was no way they were fitting in the fusion bugs there.
Yeah, no way. No, and because here's the thing. I'll complain about the fact that the fusion bugs weren't used, but two things. One, I think they shouldn't have included them in the first place if they weren't going to be used.
Like you said, they were kind of like writing, off the cuff, and I feel like they added them in there as an option.
Yeah,
for later. It's like, hey, maybe we can do this later. Okay, then we'll seed this idea now. Maybe we can pay it off, and they just didn't. They didn't find a good spot for it. Maybe they could have if they got rid of the beta Ginus.
Yeah, it was a mistake. I think to add them in, especially in a series where fusion has been a big part of the story, to say, hey, we have a way to do that, it really just kind of sets you up for failure. And the second thing is, I'm really glad they didn't use them in that final battle, because I think that would have been worse than what we got.
I think it would have muddled a lot of things.
Yeah, because
just getting Goku as Super Saiyan 4, I feel like, is enough. That adult form Super Saiyan 4, the gorgeous fight and animation, that fucking Kamehameha that pierced the heavens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, I would not sacrifice that.
Yeah, I would sacrifice a quarter of an episode to get a better explanation for how he got Super Saiyan 4, but
yeah, sure.
But whatever.
I can agree with that.
But like, he got Super Saiyan 4, and that ending. I'm sorry, it's so funny. We're talking about the entire show, but it feels like we're working backwards. I really like that ending because, frankly, it like you said, every character moment is a gem. The action is stupendous. Some of the best in all of Dragon Ball. That Kamehameha is a spectacle. And it's the kind of spectacle where it's not just cool looking, but the implications that come along with it. The water pouring out of Demon World 2 like is so poignant and gorgeous. Everything about it is so awesome. And I can't agree. That final episode was really good, y'all, and I will die on that hill.
Yeah, then let's sandwich this bitch, because I also think the show had a very strong opening act.
Oh yeah.
While the first episode, its big highlight is obviously the reanimated Buu stuff and the introduction of some of our I guess Arinsu, the best character that they introduced, maybe. But while that one might have been a little slow and wonky, as soon as the actual adventure picked up, as soon as they entered the demon world, I felt like this show was capturing that feeling that Dragon Ball had way back when, the mystical adventure, the journey to a new world. You reset the power scale a bit by dampening, he's got to get used to his body. The air's a bit thick. So while we're ramping up the action, we're getting used to this world and the new things that we're being thrown into. And I liked that.
Yeah. Like you said, when you said like it popped off at the beginning, I was about to make the same caveat that you did. That first episode, it's really cool to get that recap. It's gorgeous. It's
reanimated stuff's. I mean, we're getting a bit of a Boo-naissance. I feel like there's a lot of things that are focusing on Boo lately, and I don't know if we're gonna, because they're talking about reanimating the first arc of One Piece as well. Do you think we'll ever get a reanimation of some of like Dragon Ball's stuff?
Well, yeah. First thing I want to say is, yeah, you said exactly what I was gonna say. Amazing that we got all this Boo stuff. Boo, which is not the most popular arc. The fact that it got so much love in that opening sequence was awesome, and it was really cool to see. It's my least favorite arc from the Z portion, personally.
Same.
But it's still nice.
I think it's fairly obvious based on where we stopped our parody. But
so the other thing, while One Piece is definitely One Piece is getting its whole. I don't think they're going to reanimate the entire thing. I just don't see it happening.
Probably not, but they at least announced that East Blue is getting redone, right?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how that pans out, because frankly, I think it's going to be a hack job. I think it's going to be bad. I say that because we've heard very little about it. They announced it really early. They didn't announce a lot of details. They just said, hey, Wit Studios is coming in here and they're reanimating One Piece. I think it's going to look gorgeous, but I think it's going to be a fucking hack job to the story. They're going to cut a whole lot, streamline it, and it's going to be like, it's just going to be a highlight reel with a story that's barely readable. And
do you think it'll be a hack job in the same way that the live action one is a hack job, or?
I wouldn't call the live action one a hack job necessarily.
They certainly trimmed down elements of it to fit it into a tighter package.
Yeah, but frankly, and I hate to say this, while I really appreciate what Toei Animation has been doing with One Piece lately, I don't give them the benefit of a doubt to come up with a version of the story to basically rewrite that story in a way that still captures the important parts and tells the story in a decent way while cutting out a bunch of stuff. I think they're going to try and just cut as much as they can and streamline the in-between scenes. We'll see. And I say Toei, but I guess what I mean is whoever's working on this, because I don't think Toei Animation is going to fund a proper retelling of that first arc. Now, I could be wrong. We could get One Piece. We could get the One Piece or whatever it's being called. I forget. We could get it from Wit Studios, and it might be amazing. It might replace that first arc for a lot of people, which, frankly, the anime's telling of that first part is not the best. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not amazing either. So I don't know. But regardless.
Yeah, sorry, I strayed us from the point.
It's all right. When it comes to Dragon Ball being reanimated, so that's something people have wanted that forever. The moment that Kai was announced, people were freaking out because it was closer to what they had wanted. Mm-hmm. A version of it that takes out all of the filler, where we get some touched up
or
animation.
As much of the filler as possible, because there was so much of the filler that still was integral, it kind of tied itself into the plot too much, like Bulma and the Frog. I think that didn't get cut out.
That didn't get cut out for stupid reasons.
Yeah.
They literally needed it for time.
Yeah.
They needed a specific episode count, so they kept the frog stuff. They didn't need it. They could have cut that, and it's frustrating. Doesn't matter. People were so excited about Kai because it was so close to what they wanted. And ever since then, I'm not sure if Toei Animation has been feeling the vibe. I don't know if they've been testing the waters here, because God knows that people would absolutely freak out at a reanimated version of Dragon Ball. But the problem with that is, one, Dragon Ball is an old property by now. It is genuinely just a very old property. It's still popular, you can still sell new merch, but you really want to go back to OG Dragon Ball, and you want to start from there. And if you don't start from there, you start from Z, you're going to run into other problems, because you're trying, like, ultimately you still want a new audience to kind of come into this. I don't know. I don't think we're ever gonna...
it is a little difficult. It's not like Full Metal Alchemist when they released the original anime and then the manga ended. It's like, okay, I guess we'll redo it with slightly better admittedly better animation, and do the story the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah. And that was crazy at the time. That was insane. Everyone was like, wait, you're remaking this anime because it had a non-canon ending? Holy shit, okay. I mean, I think a lot of people would have been okay if they just started where they canon, like, split. But honestly, you couldn't do that either.
Hunter x Hunter got 2 shows, and it still doesn't have an ending. The 2011 anime is a pretty good ending to Gon's story, but it's still not an ending to Hunter x Hunter.
No, the Hunter x Hunter's never gonna get an ending. I love Togashi. I love Togashi. Let me be clear.
Check out Stefan and I's conversation about Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter. You can listen to us gush about him forever.
Yeah, but we're never. I personally, I believe we're never getting a fully reanimated version of Dragon Ball, because it's way too much. It's 500 and some odd chapters. You are asking for years of people working on this. You would need a ton of animators. The scheduling, and I hate to say this part, you'd have to recast. You would have to recast the entire, like, almost the entire thing. And I just don't think they're committed to that right now. I don't think they have the I just don't think
the apparatus.
Because I just don't think they want to recast Nozawa. And you'd have to recast like half the other characters too, because most of them just are not either voice acting anymore or too old to do it, and it's rough. It's rough. I know a lot of them are coming back for these movies and stuff a lot, but you're asking for a several year commitment, and I think at this point they would have to recast. You need a bunch of animators, so much time.
that makes sense.
But
as far as Daima goes, again, that opening, the adventure through the demon world as we're exploring its nuances, I felt like that was great. I loved everything, like up until like the first Tamagami fight. I felt like it was not necessarily flawless, but I was getting out of it exactly what I wanted.
I'll say that up until that first Tamagami fight, I was very excited to see where it was going to go. I wasn't exactly getting everything I wanted, but it felt like it was promising a lot. Where I would have tried to fit some more wacky adventure stuff in that first bit, it did sort of feel like we were getting a tour of the place. Because we'd always have somebody explaining. We'd have either Shin or Glorio explaining parts of the demon world as they're sort of going through it.
This is what we call a village.
Yeah. And I don't know. If I took a crack at that script, I do think I would have tried to have gotten a lot of that earlier stuff. I would have streamlined a lot of it. I would have gotten us, like, I would have been on the Demon World episode, 2, if I could have done it. I would have had us adventuring way quicker.
They did spend a lot of time on exposition.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tell.
That's one of the biggest problems I find in the series, is that they tell you a lot about the ways the demon world works instead of just kind of showing you and letting you explore it more in depth.
Because it does just kind of feel like, when you're there, it does just feel like a feudal society, which essentially it kind of just is.
Yeah.
There's not really that much different from human society there. other than the fact that they do have magic and somewhat relatively advanced technology and a relatively free natured spirit of the idea of nobody has property, that plane is now mine.
Also, I gotta be honest with you, what was the point of bringing up everybody's got their own version of magic? It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't contribute to the plot at all.
The only one that seems to really affect is Glorio, because he's the only one we ever actually see use it in combat.
But at that point, why even bring up that every Majin has their own version of magic? Why not just say, hey, magic is a part of this world?
It was another thing that was probably like just seeding an idea in case they wanted to go with something, because as you said throughout our conversations, this felt very first drafty, and then you got confirmation that it very much was.
Yeah. And that's frustrating because it does mean that the first 8 episodes introduced a lot of ideas, some concepts, and then they don't get elaborated on. The stuff with the collars is introduced and then basically taken care of immediately. The stuff with magic is introduced, never paid off. The stuff with the fusion, the combined bugs, introduced, never brought up again. There are so many things in this series that are brought up and abandoned. For God's sake, Glorio and Arinsu's relationship is so interesting on paper, and some people were okay with what we got. I wasn't. I'm just not. And if you were, that's fine. I'm glad that the subtlety worked for you. For me, it felt like they were hinging too much of the emotional weight on those moments on stuff we just never got, and I felt like implication was not enough. Because there was so much there that I was interested in seeing. I wanted to know more about Glorio. I wanted to know more about Arinsu. Arinsu, this character who, frankly, again, the best character, the best antagonist, if we're not counting like Ku and Do, like they kind of feel like
Ku and Do were never antagonists.
Yeah,
they just kind of never were. They fought Goku, or Do fought Goku for a bit, and then the antagonist actually showed up.
Yeah. I would have been, I don't know, it would have been nice to just see more of their relationship throughout, understand what their whole dynamic was, because it leaves Glorio feeling like this character who barely exists in this plot, even though he's so important and vital.
I think that's why I liked the Arinsu scene so much, because it was a lot more show, don't tell. Like, she's just existing in this world that she's always existed in, working on her little scheme, and you learn so much more about their society and about like the way this world works through her just telling her story than we needed through like that exposition that Glorio and Shin kept giving.
Yeah.
Like, just by going up to that witch and being like, hey, I need to grow a new boo, and you know, I heard you know how to make those. Just this weird little medieval-esque society where you go to the old crone in the woods to make magic potions and create little boys. It's just fucking, like, I don't know. Just like, she became a single mom, and that was her arc, man.
That being said, I really do love all of that.
It was great. I loved that whole beat. Like, I loved when we cut to that.
I don't like Marba. I could have done...
I didn't even know that was her name.
Yeah. The fact that she originally made Boo, nah, no.
I think she's a fun witch character. I don't think they needed that wrinkle.
If they had removed that, I would have been totally fine. Like,
what if there was just this like coven of witches? Maybe Bibbidi and maybe Bibbidi was a part of that coven at one point, and you know, like this old council of ancient mages. And they just studied the old ways of magic, the ways that the Namekians didn't study. And
I mean, sure, you could have got, like, that would have been cool. I personally, and again, I hate to be if I would have done it, but that's kind of what all
we're theory crafting and having fun here. We're spitballing. Come on.
If I were going to remove the whole bit about Malba, whatever, being the person who made Boo, I would have just gotten rid of her character altogether, and I would have had Arinsu make Ku on her own. Because, and here's a frustrating thing, they talk about her experiments. They talk about...
we never really see her do much science.
No, and that sucks. Like, why bring that up? Why bring up her profession, her hobby, her interests, and then not do it?
Which is why when I guess Marba, that's the name, when she originally showed up, I thought she was some sort of like mentor to Arinsu, but then you brought up like, no, she mentioned that this is kind of like one of the first times they've tracked her down. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that doesn't make sense then.
Yeah.
Because it would make sense if Arinsu is still like, studying the dark arts, like trying to bring like the magical science to its zenith or something. But no, so there's more that you could expand on there, but that was one of my favorite beats of the second act, was all of Arinsu's side plot.
Yeah. That being said, well, the introduction with Marba, whatever, and that stuff, I'm not here for it. I might have altered that. Everything else with Ku, with Do, priceless. Absolutely love it. Like one of the best parts of the show.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that they were just good boys.
They were incredibly good boys.
Yeah, like when he first popped up, it's like, okay, he's a Saiba Buu, but then he turned out to be just like very quick-witted, a little charming, and just like, he wants to be a good boy for his mom. He wants to be helpful, and he's very quick to realize when he's out of his depth. And he's like, nope, strategic retreat. Yeah. I can't do this.
Him giving up and just bowing was so good. I love that. Yeah. Everything about Ku and Do, honestly, they're both. It's sort of interesting because even the series sort of recognizes that between the two of them, Ku is the more interesting character, while Do kind of feels like the brother there who's way just more focused on the id.
He's hungry, and like he doesn't necessarily want to fight, but when he's in a fight, he just lets it go.
Yeah.
And he's unpredictable. I loved his fighting style, like his little frog hops and shit like that. Fucking great.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm just a little bit sad that we didn't get more of that in his fight with Goku.
For sure.
I would have, God, what I would have done for a fight with Ku and Do versus Vegeta and Goku, I would have been so...
Yeah, can you imagine like Ku being sort of this like strategist, being like, okay, now tag out. Now you go attack him, I'll fight him. We need to change up our rhythm.
Yeah. I would have been so happy to gotten one whole episode or even half of an episode where they actually got a real fight against them, because yeah, you're right. Them they would have switched out and been like, "Hey, this is a bad matchup. I need you in here." That would have been so fun.
Or like a more interesting fight to me would have been like, since Ku is clearly not as strong as either of the Saiyans, why not give Piccolo something to do? Have him fight Ku. Like Daimon King versus future Daimon King kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get the fucking Piccolo.
Yeah, we will.
But
poor
yeah,
Piccolo.
But that being, again, I'm not trying to take away from what we got too much, because what we got with Ku and Do was pretty good.
Yeah,
it maybe the worst thing is I wanted more of them. But
exactly. Like if your biggest complaint is I just wanted more of that. That's a pretty minor complaint on the grand scheme, but it's still a complaint. It's a critique.
Yeah.
I can't tell if your camera just froze or if... Okay, there we go.
Okay.
You were just sitting there like this for 5 seconds. Okay.
So, yeah,
I can't do that because I got movement in the background.
Yeah.
But yeah, if just like wanting more of them is the biggest complaint you have, then they are great. That's all.
Yeah. So yeah, Ku and Do, great. Those first several episodes, pretty good. As I said though, the worst part about those first several episodes is how much they introduce and don't pay off, because that does retroactively make them a little bit worse, and it makes watching those later episodes frustrating, because as you're going through them, all I was able to think was, wait, so are we never going to explore all the things that we talked about earlier? Are we just going to... Is this really our plot? Also,
when do we get to see the mud-colored wine?
Why is Dende in this plot too? I got to be honest with you.
That was a fine MacGuffin. I understand. Oh, shit, they have an Namekian. We only have one of those. Ours is pretty old. Let's get a new one. Like...
Neva also, by the way, Neva's great. I'm so glad we had Neva. But there's with Dende, I would have been more okay with it if we just gotten a little bit more. Now, I don't need scenes with him. I don't need a whole lot of dialogue. Just a little like physical reminders that he is here. He is the thing that they are trying to get back ostensibly. Mm-hmm. And it was just a little strange to me that they just don't focus on him. They have one single scene that's not very good, where that nurse is reading a story to him, and then the next time we see him, it's when
Degasu's like kidnapping him.
Yeah, and that's almost over 10 episodes later. It's strange. It's just a little weird because he is a major part of this plot, and he's barely touched on throughout. Usually just dialogue from characters. And I say that just like, from somebody who was watching it, you want to kind of remind your audience, like, hey, here's the part of that plot that he's still important. You want that to be you want to touch back in on these things. My internet connection is unstable. Well, that's not great.
It seems that way. Yeah, you keep cutting out. I'm just sitting here absent-mindedly nodding. So.
That's phenomenal. Hopefully that's not going to be a problem. But
yeah,
I don't know. Again,
I agree. Like you do a bunch of stuff that like just doesn't have much payoff in that regard, especially with like Dende is just a MacGuffin. That's all he is. He is the damsel. You need to go rescue them from the evil king's castle. That's what Dende is. That's the plot device. That's all. And I think that's okay. Saving a kidnapped character, that's pretty that's pretty standard in an adventure story.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that too much.
I'm just saying, in most adventure stories that I've watched or read, they don't just completely remove that character from the plot for several episodes.
Well, he was also a baby. Like, there's not a whole lot you're going to get out of him at that point.
Yeah, you could have done some funny baby things.
Do a baby's day. You know what? Take the beta Ginus and have them like your job is to guard this child, and then it does like a baby's day out where it's like crawling on scaffolding. It's like, oh no, it's gonna get hurt, and then they do that whole thing.
Nick, do you know how much I actually would have loved that as a side plot for another and completely like disconnected from the A plot of an episode, just them having to deal with baby Dende? I would have fucking loved that. Are you kidding me?
Unfortunately, the show only had 20 episodes. If you had more episodes, you might have been able to do some more fun stuff like that.
I actually
budget is the budget.
I actually disagree, because there's a lot of episodes when like barely anything happens because the pacing is terrible.
But imagine the amount of animation you'd have to put in for those scenes. Like, you know what I mean?
I know that they had 3 years to animate this thing, and I think I'm not
fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and hindsight is always an extremely powerful tool.
All I'm saying is, having visual reminders of a part of your story helps the audience feel like, oh yeah, he's there, he's with them, and not just dialogue every once in a while in the background. I think just showing him still being a part of the story is important. And the fact that they don't do that, there are a lot of really minor things. As somebody who spent years trying to edit things together to make sure that they were effective and that they were like effectively telling a story, I picked up on, hey, these are really vital things that you can do, and they were kind of missing. There were just several times where I felt there were things missing, very fundamental things that were missing in this series. And it's not a wholesale condemnation of it. It is a critique of the way that it was written. And the thing that frustrates me, and I'm not gonna lie, a lot of people always tell me, well, Dragon Ball was being written week to week. Yeah, that was a problem. That's not a good way to tell a story. I'm sorry, it's not. I know we all love our shonen manga. I know we love our Naruto. We love our Hunter x Hunter. We love our One Piece. We love our My Hero Academia. But you look me in the eye and tell me that writing one chapter week to week is a nominal way to tell any story. And I'll slap you because you're dumb and I hate you and you should die.
The best way to compare this, I think, like in terms of like modern lexicon for some people out there to really get it, is if anybody's played tabletop. especially if you are a dungeon master or a game master, and you host like a weekly game. You might plan some things out, but it is always week to week because you can't account for what your players are going to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm betting that there are a lot of game masters and DMs out there that think well after the fact, shit, I should have done this, and it would have made this part a little bit more impactful for them or that or something like that. That is the problem with week-to-week writing, which, you know, if you have a deadline or you're like going off the cuff, can be problematic in terms of storytelling. You're practically improvising at that point. Like, you may have an arc in your head, but getting from beginning to end is tough.
And frankly, I wouldn't want to read the version of Lord of the Rings where he was releasing a chapter a week. No, thank you. I'm not here for that.
I wonder how many of those were just him frustratedly scribbling, and then Tom Bombadil shows up and fixes everything. Just...
Yeah.
That's how every one of my drafts would end until I finally got to a real ending.
Yeah, no, I understand that people like love the original Dragon Ball and are will be like, but you know, this is how Dragon Ball works. It doesn't have to. Is all I'm saying. It doesn't have to work like that. They had years to work on this. They had years to make it happen.
Think about how much better anime got when when certain shows switched to a seasonal basis as opposed to a week-to-week basis.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the years of filler for Naruto? Because they had to do week-to-week.
That's another problem though.
It is, but it's part of the same problem because like it's all pacing.
Yeah.
And when you have to like make shit up as you're going along, it's all a part of the same like if you give a mangaka say a year to make X amount of chapters instead of like one chapter every week, I think you'd end up with a better story.
Yeah, here's a fun thing. Those Dragon Ball battles where it took like 10 episodes for one fight for no reason. That was bad. I know that a lot of people think, oh, this big epic fight that takes several episodes. Yeah, that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing that we sat there where the beginning of the episode started on the first punch and the end of the episode started and it ends on the second fucking punch.
I fell out of One Piece because of Dressrosa.
Yeah.
Like that shit was monstrous.
Yeah.
Heinous.
So when I talk about like, hey, it didn't feel like anything happened this week, and then I see people in the fucking comments say, hey, well, that's just Dragon Ball. Stop doing that. Stop looking back at the thing that you loved and then making excuses for its faults because you want to like new thing. That's not healthy. It's not a good way to look at art. Like
it's okay to see the positives,
and it's okay. It's okay
to rejecting criticism is a problem.
Yeah,
like you don't have to take the criticism. You don't even have to agree with it.
But it is
a criticism.
Yeah, and it's important. It's important that you can still love that original thing. I still love that original thing. I still love all of original Dragon Ball Z.
Warts and all.
Yeah. I think the Kai version is better paced.
Yes.
Flat out, I think that pacing, it's definitely a little jankier because it's cutting some stuff and some shots were not made to be edited that fast. But in terms of telling its story, remarkably better, infinitely better.
Yes.
And that's why I get frustrated. I get frustrated when people, again, try and use the original anime and the original manga as a way to excuse the problems with Daima. That doesn't apply here. It's under a completely different circumstance with a different production schedule, etc. Don't compare those things. It's unfair to the original, and it's frankly giving this way too much leeway that it doesn't deserve. Now, again, I think that Daima is better than GT, and if you put a gun to my head and told me, hey, one has to die, I would kill Super over Daima. I would. Because I frankly think that Daima is... Okay, no, maybe not die. If I had to erase one from existence... Like, if I had to erase... Because
What's the difference?
Well, no. No. Because if I guess what I want to say is, I made a post where I said keep one or kill one, keep two. I killed GT immediately, kept Super and Daima. Super for me has incredibly high highs. Also, it progresses stuff a little bit more. I think that Ultra Instinct is really cool. I think like Beerus and Whis, some of my favorite new characters the series has ever introduced. Hell, I think the Goku Black arc has some insanely cool ideas and brilliant moments that get drugged down by one of the worst endings Dragon Ball has ever seen. I think that Super overall is just, it has some more amazing moments, but damn it, the bad moments are infinitely worse than anything Daima comes up with. It's the worst. It's worse than even GT's worst moments, if I had to be honest with you. And that's saying something.
That is saying quite a bit.
Yeah.
But you do bring up an interesting point in comparing GT to Daima, because they are, like, intrinsically, like, Daima's almost certainly a spiritual successor to GT.
It's not
like,
almost. It's not almost.
It just is.
Yeah, they flat out said, hey, we wanted to make this show because we wanted to basically redo GT.
So I wanted to ask you, like, a few things in terms of, like, compare and contrast. In terms of, you know, like, for comparison's sake, because I've seen you compare a few things online, and we've even talked about some of this in person. In terms of pacing, there is without a shadow of a doubt that Daima is better. I can't imagine that you would argue that.
Yeah. In terms of pacing, I'd say, yeah. I mean, it kind of depends, but I'd say yes. I'd say it's got the best pacing out of all of the shows.
Yeah, just due to its short-lived nature in general, I think that kind of had to be the case.
Yeah.
You can get through this show in less than 10 hours. Especially if you skip the, like, opening and end credits.
Yeah. Which I skipped. I never skipped the opening. I skipped the ending every time.
I skipped the opening a couple times. It's a good opening.
I really love it, so.
Yeah. How about as far as it treats some of its characters?
The only character I think that it treats poorly is Piccolo, and it's really frustrating.
Which one?
Both okay. No, so in terms of how it
Which one do you think treats Piccolo worse?
Oh, easily GT. No, I'm sorry. I know there are a lot of people out there who get emotional at Piccolo's death. I think it's one of the dumbest fucking things in the entirety of Dragon Ball. I hate that. I hate it so much. You only need to watch me talk about Piccolo's death in GT, and I am a ranting madman, okay? That shit sucked.
Here's the interesting wrinkle to that. On one hand, yes, the way it uses Piccolo in the plot of GT sucks. But GT actually used Piccolo in its plot.
Yes.
So
it uses Piccolo.
So there is that.
And what, like, him becoming the King of Hell on its own is really is just a genuinely good use of Piccolo there. Like, if we're gonna have this stupid plot where he for some reason ends up in hell, him basically ruling the place is pretty remarkable. I dig that.
Yeah.
But I would prefer a series that barely uses the character over one that uses him incredibly poorly.
Yeah.
And I
can see that.
And I can't get over the death of Piccolo in that. It's just it's too stupid. It's too stupid. He still has the wound that Gohan gave him a month ago.
Yeah, that the one character that can actually regenerate never regenerated. Maybe it was like, I'm gonna keep this around because Gohan gave it to me. It's a special gift from my baby boy.
Right? Yeah, no, it's so stupid.
How about in terms of new characters introduced? Because in GT, while Pan already existed, this is essentially us being introduced to the character of Pan. This is the show that gave us Pan as a character. It gave us Giru. It gave us a bunch of random nonsense, like, you know, characters that would, like, show up like one-offs. But let's talk about, like, main plot relevant things like Mew, Baby, the dragons. Like, those are kind of like the new characters they give us.
Yeah.
And then in Daima, we got the slate. You know, we got Glorio, Arinsu, Degasu, Gomah,
Ponzi.
Ponzi.
Yeah.
And her entire family.
Pansy, okay, so
Oh, and Hybis.
Okay,
Hybis,
so
who is the Giru of...
I think, yes, he really is. It is kind of impossible to deny that Daima's got a better cast.
Yeah.
Not that there aren't some neat things going on with GT. Like we love Giru. Dr. Mew's kind of neat, I guess. Baby's an awesome villain until he's not.
Baby is probably the best post-Z villain that they created by concept. By concept alone, he is the most interesting villain post-Z.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree. He's definitely got a lot of unique things going for him. The fact that he can basically take over people and hive mind them. His whole origin story is really unique. The execution is poor, unfortunately. Yeah. Like, and again, he's great until he's not. He starts off remarkably strong, which is really interesting to me because he's like the turning point to when they were like scrambling to rewrite the story to be more action oriented. And the best stretch of episodes in GT is when Baby is slowly consuming Earth. Yeah. That whole bit where we were introduced to him and then he becomes this growing threat and then he takes over Earth and it's so dark and so everything about that works so great. And man, you're reminding me of that great setup before the fall. And oh man,
that's GT in general.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, the great setups before the horrible, terrible falls where you break every single.
Look, there's a reason Super 17 is my favorite arc, and that's just because it's all rise, no fall.
No, I think it's
all rise and then immediate drop. That's all.
I think it felt like it felt like it was a drop that was going so fast and so perilous that it was exciting in its own right.
Exactly. It was a ridiculous roller coaster.
Yeah. With GT, if you even compare what the characters do, like I like Shin more than I like. Okay, I like Shin way more than I like that version of Trunks. I like Hybis way more than I like Giru.
That's tough for me.
Okay.
I was going into our rewatch of GT as like a man. Giru is like the Jar Jar Binks of this shit. I came out thinking like, damn, I stan Giru.
Well, okay, but let's also take a look at those two characters and how they're presented in their own stories. Giru, we latched onto kind of not ironically, but there was just so much going on that Giru became that character we latched onto because we needed a life raft, we needed a fucking lifesaver in the sea of mediocrity and bullshit that was GT. Giru on his own is not a phenomenal character. He's just he's the one you sympathize with the most because Pan is just fucking terrible.
Yeah.
But Hybis, on the other hand, is just funny, and he's supposed to be.
That's true, but I don't think Hybis ever reached Giru's highs for me. Hybis never did anything to the equivalent of pulling a gun on Jiro.
Yeah, the closest thing he ever did was, I swear, I wish he was the one who threw the hat.
Yeah.
But that being said, while he doesn't have the highs of Giru, I guess, he is, to me personally, far stronger consistently.
That's fair.
And in that regard,
he's also much more of a side character and less of a mascot.
Yeah, also that. But I also way prefer Pansy over Pan.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, Pan is insufferable in that show, and I won't hear anything else. I'm sorry, she's the worst. She's whiny. She's mean-spirited.
She started out great, got horrible for a good chunk of it, and then kind of came back around in the Shadow Dragons arc,
where she's barely a character. I mean, she's on screen, she's active, but she's barely got any character traits about her anymore. She's just kind of been sanded over. She barely has one good big moment that she gets, and then she's just used for fodder to make for Goku. It sucks, and it makes me sad because I see Pan in Superhero, and I'm like, man, I know you're just Goku 2.0, but I would have been okay with that. I would have been okay. Like, I would have actually preferred it because this little girl who's just like looking to fight and get better.
Yeah, this polite little girl who has that Goku in her.
Yeah, she felt like a combination of Gohan and Goku. She's
in the best ways.
Yeah, she's polite, but she likes to fight, and I'm about that. like a pawn who grows up like who's very respectful but also battle hungry. Yeah, that's awesome. Please give me that. I would.
And you know, some of that's her mom too. Like that's the best part.
Because like the interesting thing is the docile, the shy and reserved nature of Gohan, was good for him. I didn't want Gohan to be like his father. I'm really glad that he was just this kind of bookwormy little dude. But the idea that his granddaughter, that Goku's granddaughter, is a mixture of kind of like him and Gohan's characteristics via Gohan and Videl, who's likes to fight, like, oh my god, I just
she's perfect in that. And then in GT, it's just she becomes the nag.
Yeah, she is the girl character, and it sucks. She doesn't even get Super Saiyan, for fuck's sake. And yes, I do think that matters. I do think it's fucking weird that the only female Saiyan who fights doesn't get Super Saiyan. So
while Ponzi doesn't exactly, fight or anything like that, she is more consistently a helpful character.
Yeah. You know what? One scene. She only needed one scene for me, and it's when the Kraken destroyed the
and she went back for the Dragon Ball.
And she's the one who went back for the Dragon Ball. She acted to get the Dragon Ball, and I loved that. Like, I don't know. She consistently was a character with her own limitations, and obviously she's not solving everybody's problems, but she is trying her best. I liked her characteristic. I loved her design. I just generally I was about her. She didn't feel like she was detracting from the story by being an annoying, nagging little asshole. And that's way better than Pan for me.
Yeah, and then of course we got Arinsu, and I can't think of like another character in GT to compare her to. The closest might be Mew, but
yeah,
that's not a fair comparison. That's not they don't serve the same function.
No, like I love. Man, sorry, I can talk about Arinsu all day long because Arinsu as a character is. The only thing I didn't like was that ending, where it definitely felt like they were building her up to be more evil than she ended up being. Although she's still really fucking evil, mind you. I do not want to get over the fact that she helped make the collars and the stuff that stole people's life.
I was hoping she'd be closer to a big bad, but I came around on it. That's just not the story they were telling. I still really liked her as a character, and her subplot was probably my favorite subplot in the entire show.
Yeah, I agree. It is. It just is. I'd be kind of surprised if anybody found Gomah and Degasu all that interesting.
God, Degasu, what a wasted character.
Yeah, Degasu is the biggest wasted potential in the series, and I don't look. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. I'm writing Degasu. I would have made him a good guy, or a neutral guy. I would have made him a guy who originally worked for Abra, and the guy before him. Just had him be a guy who worked for Dabura and Abra. Have him be like, hey, he's been an assistant to the Daimon Kings. Then when Gomah comes in, he's like, fuck, this guy sucks, and have that be his plot. Have him be a guy who's stuck in a situation where he doesn't want to be there. Because then you don't have to have this whole he betrays Degasu and grabs Dende to try and get away with him at gunpoint. You could have had him just betray Gomah to go to the other side and then have him get I don't know. There's just ways that you could have made that so much better. And he could have been an interesting character, and he just ends up being a guy who just wants to become the Demon Lord. He's just, I want to become the Daimon King. Oh, cool, great. That's your whole, that's your fucking motive. God.
Yeah, the traitorous vizier, basically.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, Gomah kind of gets wasted as well because we never get to see him as a threat until he gets the thing that made him a threat.
Yeah. Gomah's sort of weird because they talk early on about how he's this super powerful, wizard.
Mage.
Yeah, he's got all of this power, and it's like, okay.
Never displays it.
Yeah, we never see him do shit. The only time
if we had actually gotten to see him do like some of the stuff he did in the final episode, where just like throwing out like little like using a magical rod to throw beams, and those beams shoot balls of energy and whatever. Just have him do some of that on like a lower scale that does make him look like a threat, and I'd buy it.
Yeah. The problem I found with Gomah is that they wanted to be funny with him, and
you can still be funny with him and have him be powerful.
Well, I was gonna say they wanted to be funny with him, but they never wanted to give him enough time to be funny. Like every scene that we got with him was it ranged from benign to funny. Mm-hmm. I'll say that. There was never a scene that I got with Gomah where I was like, oh my God, we're back on this fucking guy. No, that wasn't the problem. The problem I found was like, oh shit, we're back on Gomah. Okay, what's next?
What's he going to do? He's just watching them and commentating. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I guess we got something funny out of that, but like, can we get some really, something actually interesting? Can we get anything with him?
You had such a great example of an evil wizard when Bobbidi was able to, have him do some of that Bobbidi shit where he's casting spells from afar to make shit harder for our heroes. Okay, you want to do that? Then papaya, then their ship explodes or something.
Yeah. Hey, bro, why do we need all this circumstance for the ships to keep getting blown up or destroyed? Why not have him he fucking?
I'm gonna create a demon storm.
Yeah, exactly. Just do that.
Saruman that shit.
Yeah. If he already has all these magical abilities and he's able to watch them in the demon world, I think that as the Daimon King, especially, he should have the ability to do some crazy stuff there.
Because we already had this example of a wizard of the I guess maybe Bobbidi and Bibbidi were they from the demon world? They didn't have the ears. Maybe they lost their ears.
That's a good point. I have Bobbidi and Bibbidi did not have the demon ears.
They didn't have any ears. Or maybe they're just maybe they chopped them off to hide it.
Yeah.
Maybe they were exiled for being blamed for creation of Buu, and they had their ears shorn off or something. I don't know. But we had this great example of an evil wizard that you could have pulled from and, maybe done a few things with. Because he was able to teleport people. He was able to enter people's minds. He was able to empower people with his magic. And they don't do anything with that.
Yeah. It does suck because it does feel like Bobbidi is a better version of Gomah in that regard.
Or at least a more fun... what they wanted to do is they wanted Pilaf that was a threat. Or they wanted Garlic Jr.
Oh, yeah. I would have been 100% okay with a mixture of Pilaf and Bobbidi. That's what he should have been.
Which is kind of what he was, but he was too much Pilaf.
Yeah, too much Pilaf. But even, I don't know, even Pilaf was still doing more in the background, it felt like.
Well, because Pilaf, man, he actually worked for it. He went out with his crew to actually, do shit.
Yeah.
They were the proto Team Rocket. They really were.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. But Gomah's not terrible, though. The thing is, I still find Gomah to be funny.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I didn't walk away from this series being like, man, if I were to rewrite this, I'd just take out Gomah entirely. No. I think there are just ways to improve Gomah to make him better. But he's still good. Yeah. He's okay. He's like a 6.57 out of from in terms of the characters and how they're used. Which
and then
an actual 6.57, not a anything below an 8 is garbage.
Yeah, and then we spend what 3.5 episodes on him as a giant, as a big buff clown Jiren. And while there are some fun beats, some really good animation beats in that chunk, it did feel like that was the part of the show that kind of dragged, that I do think works better in a binge. So week to week, some of that was kind of, okay, I guess this is still going.
So that being said, hold on. The second Demon World. the second Demon World, because I think we've covered basically everything that was in the first one, like all the stuff that kind of we liked and we didn't like. We're leaving out a bunch of details, like we don't even talk about the
I'm not even trying to cover this chronologically, but if you'd like to.
I mean, I do think it's important that we at least try to, just to cover as much as we can, because I would hate to leave too much on the table. I already know that we are. With the second Demon World was where the cracks really started to show.
I remember the first episode that you genuinely did not like was the opening of the gateways, basically, with Neva.
Oh my god. Yeah, so the moment we get to the second Demon World, Neva enters the plot properly. Because, he's introduced in the first episode. He's just kind of there to facilitate the opening act. And then he kind of moves to the background. And then in the second act, he reappears to introduce himself to the main characters, and that's when we kind of realize, wait, you are way more than just the Namekian of the Demon Realm. You're kind of like the guy, aren't you?
You're the Namekian.
Yeah, and which is really cool, by the way. I really like Neva. I like Neva from beginning to end. Very interesting character, really funny, really interesting. I hated the episode where he opens up those gates because there's so many things wrong with that whole sequence, and it also introduces a lot of interesting questions that are kind of being ignored. It's also the fucking giant episode. I love that episode. I love it. I love the giant episode so goddamn much. But why wasn't it the first thing that they found when they got to the second Demon Realm? That should have been the first thing that they encountered, because putting it immediately after that second Tamagami fight was so bad. Everyone hated that episode because right after that Tamagami fight, the plot had started to move. We were in active, oh shit, everything's about to converge territory, and then we sidestep for an episode where no plot moves at all. Why would you set that up there? And it's just frustrating, because I love that episode. I love everything about it. Its animation is spectacular. The idea is just like the other giant episode from GT. I loved it there, and I love it here. And
I know I'm in the minority, because the giant episode in Daima is one of my favorite episodes of the show.
Yeah, and I like it because it does what the premise promised. It is actually,
a small mystic adventure.
Yes, and I wanted more episodes like that. Again, if I were writing the show, I would have done this. I would have added more episodes like that. I would have had at least 2 episodes where we actually just had an adventure in,
like a small adventure.
Yeah, that essentially were episodic, where we were just doing weird fun things in parts of the demon world instead of just immediately jumping to the plot. And a plot that moves so slowly and is so bare bones that it's you had time. You had so much time. You introduced great value Ginu Force. You wasted time on them when you could have been putting another real adventure in this story. It's so frustrating.
I can see that, and I know the pacing of that episode when Neva's cracking open the window.
Yeah.
It is very slow, and while I do really like that it shows exactly how powerful Neva is and how strong Namekian magic can be.
Goku falling for half an episode is...
A quarter of an episode. Again, I'll stand by that. Quarter of an episode. Still a lot.
Yeah.
But the semantic matters.
It bothers me because... he gets electrocuted and then he starts falling and nobody does anything.
Literally shoves the fork in the socket and he's like,
yeah, and then no one does anything. No one goes to help him.
Oh no, he's gonna fall to his death, Vegeta. Oh no.
Yeah, it's so weird. If he did start falling and someone had gone after him, I would have been like, okay, fine, whatever. I wouldn't have thought a second thing. Him falling.
Yeah, when everybody except for Bulma on that ship can fly.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird, and I kind of hate it. And yeah, it was when we got to the second demon realm that all these cracks started to show, that the problems really started to make themselves apparent. And it also kind of culminates in the fact that first Tamagami fight is one of the best, is like maybe the second or third best episode in the show. For a while, it was my number one favorite. And in fact, it might still kind of, like, if I go back and I rewatch, there's a chance that I'll come away with it being my favorite episode. When it comes to, when it comes to the way that it's built up, the way that it's paid off, phenomenal stuff. The actual fight is gorgeous. You've got all these amazing animators going 100%. Great choreography, stupendous pacing, wonderful. Then we go to the second Tamagami fight. On Doo's side, okay, technically it was the Tamagami 2 and 1 fight, but oh my god, the fight between Doo and the Tamagami is amazing. The fight between Vegeta and the Tamagami is boring as shit. There's nothing going on there except for him going Super Saiyan 3, and that's the only interesting thing.
When he does go Super Saiyan 3, I think it does fucking, like, it sparks something, man. Like, there is something about the way Vegeta carries himself and performs when he goes Super Saiyan 3 that is just a fuck yeah moment.
Yeah, and it's great that it's a fuck yeah moment. Vegeta sort of deserves it. But the big problem you find there is that you now have a fight where it doesn't feel like there is anything at stake. It honestly felt like, oh yeah, we needed to put a fight here, so here's a fight. The choreography is bland. The actual animation quality is good. It's good. I'm not going to say it's not good, but it's not supporting anything all that creative. And there's no story being told here. It's just, he has to fight the Tamagami, and he wins against the Tamagami. Okay, I guess we got Super Saiyan 3, which is cool, but we don't get anything else beside that. Meanwhile, over with Doo, it's way more interesting because you don't know if he's going to be able to beat him, and the way that it's animated is way more creative. The choreography is far more interesting, says something about
because he's doing like the Boo stuff where he's unpredictable. They never quite get into exactly how much Boo they are because we never see them like fully liquefy or anything like that. So they're clearly more corporeal, or I guess corporeal is the wrong word. They're more solid.
Yeah, he can still like
bounce and shape shift and stretch.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he has all the same elements.
Gooey consistency.
Yeah, if he can be like blasted into a million pieces and return. They don't really explore that, which it's okay. I'm not bothered by that.
But we still get like a more creative, like bouncy boy who does like all this feral shit that you got with Kid Buu.
And I won't lie, it really does scream to me that these people are handling Buu better than any of the writers post the original manga have done. Because we just saw that, oh yeah, you could have Buu be a character in this story again, a fighter, and this is how you would use him. I love it. I love the way that they handled Doo. I love the way that he fights. I love his characteristics, and it makes me sad that we only ever got one actual fight with Boo in Super. It was a cool fight, mind you. I love that fight, but it's the only one we get, and it was in the that exhibitionary like pre-tournament against I can't remember his name. It's one of the three dogs.
Yeah, and then we had like him and Goku sparring where Boo became Muscle Man, which whatever.
That was cool, but I don't really like. That's more of like it's not so much a fight as it is. Oh, here's a little action scene between the two of them. It's neat.
It's a spar.
Yeah, it's a spar. But the real fight was great. And here we see that we see all the cool stuff you can do with Boo, and it just makes me sad that the writers never want to do that with Boo. They never want to actually utilize him because he's kind of too OP, actually.
He is.
He's frankly stupid OP. So they constantly have to nerf him by removing him from the fight or putting
he always gets eepy. He's so eepy.
It's lame. But yeah, I love Doo. And I love his fight with the Tamagami, and the fight with Vegeta and the Tamagami, it's not great. And I feel comfortable saying that most people I've seen who've reacted to it were like, yeah, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. Okay, it's all right. but that was kind of frustrating because after that first Tamagami fight, that took my breath away, and I was so excited. We get the second and technically third one, and they're just kind of okay.
Yeah.
But then we get that whole giant episode being in the wrong place at the wrong time. We get the stuff with Neva and Goku falling. That's really, really paced and bad.
We get them getting chased by the army for a couple episodes.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Episode and a half.
Yeah.
Episode and a half.
Them getting chased by the army always sucked. I'm sorry. Like that, I understand what they were going for there, but it made the pacing worse, and they weren't a real threat. It never
felt like it. It felt like they had to manufacture. Like you just have to believe that demon tech is strong enough to stun them and make them.
Oh yeah, no. Like, when we get to the third demon realm, or first demon realm, yeah. When we get to the first demon realm, a lot of problems there too. But yeah, I frankly found it to be. Again, this is just where you see all of the problems coming to a head. And then when you get to that the first demon realm, when we're finally in the third act, it is so frustrating because everything slows down to a crawl as we go through a bunch of fodder who should have just been fodder. I'm sorry. They should have all showed up and they should have been immediately blown away. They should have been a joke for the story to tell. And then we would have been like, yeah, okay, our main characters are way, way, way too strong for these guys. What could possibly stop them?
And then you introduce and then you find Ku and Do.
Yeah, then you have the third eye. Then you have Ku and Do. Then you have an actual conflict where they actually have to like fight properly.
So that's where a lot of the frustration comes in the third act, where like it feels like everything is too slow at first and then too fast. You spend time on something that should not be a threat and then take away from something that is actually kind of fun. Because we don't get a lot of time with Goku and Do fighting. We don't even get a definitive answer as to like who wins. It just kind of gets interrupted. And now Gomah is our... And there's fun stuff that happens in between. Like the whole thing with, getting the eye, that girl thief character... there was some fun stuff in there.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna say that it was all bad and there was something good in it. I'm just saying that the way that it was structured and the paced,
it was unsatisfying.
Yeah. Again, why in the world are we spending time with these soldiers? We
spent an entire half an episode on Vegeta just slapping the Kirkland Ginus.
Yeah. They should never have been a part of that plot. I hate them.
I didn't hate their characterization, but their utilization.
Yes, their characterization was very funny, and I liked that a lot. But
them giving Goku chips, them just kind of being friendly dudes who believe in themselves a little too much. That's fine. I like that.
I love that shit. A+, no notes on the characterization for them. Their designs suck and are barely varied.
We needed some variation. Like, we know there are more types of demons out there. Why didn't the leader look like a Deborah demon, and then some of the other ones maybe one of them was like one of the bird demons that we saw previously. You have other demons out there. They didn't all have to be those
purple cats.
Yeah, purple cat dudes.
Why were they the purple cat? Okay, hey. Can we stop with the purple cats? Like, this is technically... Dispo
you already got the best purple cat.
Yeah, and Dispo, I guess, was more of a rabbit, but, seriously.
Yeah, I guess he was.
Yeah, stop with, the purple fucking big-eared characters. Vary it up a little bit. And, I would have been okay with if all the other soldiers looked differently and then this one group looked like these guys. That would have been neat, because then,
it makes them seem like an elite troop of... a specialized group.
Yeah, from a different species. Like, hey, we got this one group from this one species of Majin in here, and now they're going to go fuck these guys up.
But yeah, you could have varied them up with all the other designs for demon characters that we saw, and maybe two of them could have been those purple cat dudes, but they could have, but instead, they all looked so samey.
Yeah. I mean, and it's frustrating because again, we love those characterizations, but they just have no place in this plot. Also, I'm so glad... I've watched a couple of other people do reviews, by the way. Totally not a podcast. I've watched every episode. And watching them be confused about what happens when one of the group knocks the leader's cannon up.
Yeah, that same part that vexed the shit out of me.
Yeah. watching other people be like, what the hell happened there? And I'm just sitting over here like, oh, hey, I'm so glad that other people had problems with that. And I could tell you exactly the problem that happened with that. Like, again, so it is actually confirmed there was more that was supposed to go into that episode. Apparently, a bunch of last minute shit happened with that episode. It's why it looks as bad as it does. It's why it's paced as bad as it is. And I think they weren't supposed to be a part of that plot originally at all. There was other stuff that was going on, and then they came in last second, introduced these motherfuckers, and why
then they had to pay them off immediately.
And that's why you can cut them out entirely, no problem. And the only thing you have left over is Goku holding a bag of chips. That is the only thing that lingers.
The only thing they contribute to the plot is a bag of chips.
Exactly, because and that's why it's so frustrating. And yeah, it just the whole last bit is a drag. It's a drag. There's some good parts, but it's a drag.
Yeah, like we get to the finale where finally, like, you know, Goku fights Do for a little bit, which was so fun. I wanted so much more of that. The fight starts off a little stilted, but it ramps up really quick and it gets real creative and fun. But they're immediately interrupted by Gomah. I'm skipping over Degasu, by the way, because it's such a non.
Oh yeah, no, Degasu sucks. Degasu sucks. Fuck Degasu.
His whole episode was just,
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that whole fight with Gomah, it doesn't pick up until, like, the fight with Gomah, it starts off great when they're, like, team up jumping him. All that animation, cool. Everybody's involved. Things are happening. It looks beautiful. We get to see some creative shots, a lot of, like, great tracking things as they're, like, winding through blasts and stuff like that, introducing him as a threat. We get more Super Saiyan 3. But it doesn't pick up until, like, it really doesn't pick up until Goku gets ass pulled into Super Saiyan 4, which is the next comparison to GT. Which one handled Super Saiyan 4 better?
Wait, hold on. Before we get to that, I do want to say the team up fight against Gomah is awesome. Fucking
it is
spectacular. I love that, and I'm only sad that we only got that one bit of it happening. Mm-hmm. But I'm really glad we got it. Yeah. Like, if they pace out everything after that better, I think it would have been phenomenal. Okay. So, which is better? Super Saiyan 4 Daima, Super Saiyan 4 GT?
Because in GT, you had it was still very much a literal ass pull where they had to pull Goku's tail out of his ass after, because one of GT's biggest fucking problems is that they always have to sidetrack Goku to get him away from the main plot so that the main villain can establish itself.
Don't get me started on the stupid bullshit that was the Tanuki aliens in
playing Mario Party.
Oh wow, I hate that so.
They only existed so that they could become pliers.
Yeah. Super Saiyan 4 Goku in GT. Ass pull, but at least there's some kind of explanation. At least there's some kind of build up to it. I do have to say it is really fucking weird that Elder Kai was like, you need Super Saiyan 4.
Yeah, he'll become a Super Saiyan 4 as soon as he learns how to. I don't know why he's an old timey newscaster, but whatever.
I mean, it's closer to this dub voice, so
I guess. But yeah, once he regains his mind, he'll be able to become Super Saiyan 4.
Yeah,
I know this.
And how do you know what? How, old man?
But I like the
old
idea
man,
of
how.
It was fun that, like, the moon turned him into a giant monkey. He become Gold Monkey because he is Super Saiyan.
The Earth.
Yeah, the Earth. Sorry, the Earth acting as a moon turned him into giant gold monkey. And then how Pan had to, like, appeal to his humanity. Look at the tiny picture. He remembers, and then he gains himself. And it was a really cool transformation sequence.
Yeah. I mean, it's hindered a little bit by the fact that they do one of those. It is one of those unfortunate incidents where they do the episode a scene twice between episodes at the end of one and the beginning of another, because it looks terrible at the end of that one episode. But then in the beginning of the next episode, they just start over again, and it looks way better. Yeah. And yeah, that transformation sequence. Everything that goes into it the actual sequence itself and the reveal, a B plus, A minus at worst. At worst, in terms of introducing a new transformation and build up to it. Damn, y'all. And this is including the ass pool stuff beforehand.
It is less of a reveal in GT for sure, too, because he's shown in the opening credits every single episode leading up to it. I'll
say this. If I had to compare the two forms, I like Daima's a little better. Just a little better.
In terms of design?
Yeah.
You like his Donkey Kong hands?
I do.
They're goofy and I love them.
The only thing I don't particularly like is the pants. Now again, we have pants problems, but here he has no belt or sash, and it looks a little weird. Like, cause it looks like it's just the band. It looks like there should be something there. Like, part of me kind of wishes that it had just been like a ripped version of his shirt, which would have really added to like the raggediness of it. And I don't know.
What do you think of gold versus or black versus red hair? I think the black hair looks really good personally, but
so it's a lot of red.
It is a lot of red,
but I also sort of dig that. I think.
Do you think it's like a kind of a subtle nod towards the like divine key or something like that?
I don't know if Toriyama.
Like some people are saying.
I don't know if Toriyama was going that far. I couldn't say for one way or another. What I will say is that I think black's a little boring. I thought black on Super Saiyan 4 Goku in GT. It looks all right. It's fine, but it's a little boring. Why we went to black after his hair turned fucking gold? It changed color. At least when hey, red's at least another color, right? At least we're going with the like.
That's it. Red and black complement each other incredibly well. So
they do. And that, it looks good. It's a fine color combination. But if I had to choose between the two of them, of which one I just genuinely think is more Goku, that is more monkey, there's
no question in my mind that Daima's is more monkey.
Yeah, if I had to go with the one that elicits more of an immediate response from me, I gotta go with Daima, man. Like, I genuinely prefer it, and that's saying a lot.
The way they animate him too, like actually being more bestial, like doing the monkey run.
That sells it a lot.
It does.
I won't lie.
It really does.
Because like with Super Saiyan 4 Goku in GT, he's basically
he's just Goku again.
Yeah. And look, to be fair, if anybody knows anything about me, I like Super Saiyan 4 and GT. Okay, I think the pants look bad. I think the blue that he has on his wrists.
We both agree that like Heroes kind of perfected the Super Saiyan 4 look in terms of like the dress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not gonna lie, I prefer it, but I just like this one a little better. It's not even a lot better. It's not even like, wow, Daima blew this one out of the water. It is inching it out for me just by the little things that it does, which looking at it, I was like, okay, yeah, no, I'm digging the vibe here. I'm digging the idea.
So in terms of the transformation and like the everything leading up to it, GT wins. In terms of the design, Daima wins.
Yeah. And also, oh man, I'm so sad. They even gave us the rock and everything, and I was waiting for him to do the pose. I know I'm Mr.
He kind of does, but it's not the same framing.
I know I'm Mr. Anti-nostalgia over here, and yes, I am. I just frankly am. I think that nostalgia is a cheap way to get claps from your audience. But you can do it well. You can do it in ways that are like, oh, this is the perfect time. You should do it here because it's going to resonate emotionally. And I do think that would have been a perfect moment to bring back that pose, especially since this is now this version of Super Saiyan 4. Like, yes, use the pose. There's no better time. You're not redoing it in this series. You're doing it for the first time in this series. So yeah, go ahead. And we didn't. And I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm just saying opportunity missed.
It's a quibble.
It's a quibble. I'm quibbling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does lead to some of like the sickest animation segments in Daima, especially when they get their adult forms back. Like adult Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Daima. God damn. Again, that entire last episode, fucking gem, man.
I do want to say something now, though, that I hadn't really said much in the actual reviews. I think I said it a little bit in the last episode, and I kind of want to really go over it here. The choreography sucks. Like, I really like that whole bit where they're all trying to fight him, and we have some really cool segments there. But afterwards, we get no good fight choreography. It's these big moments where, like, we get these great sweeping camera shots. We get them flying towards the camera and past the camera. We get these really cool poses of, like, characters about to hit another character, and we get these great impact frames that look really good, but they're all disconnected. There's no flow to the fight, and there's very rarely any, like, interesting use of environment. So we're just getting these really cool looking hits, impacts, responses, poses, but we're never getting good setups and follow-throughs. We're never getting creative, like, flips and like dodges. It's a lot of it is just punch, punch, kick, punch, hand over and over again as we fly past the camera. And that's not that exciting for me. I thought the Tamagami 3 fight, the first one that we got, was so cool because when you were following it, Goku is flipping and dodging the hammer and then bouncing off of it and hitting.
Yeah, using it as a platform, like actually using the enemy, their body, as a way to get an advantage.
Yeah, we see him use the environment. We see him use his enemy's weapon. Oh my god, I'll never get over one of the coolest shots of him. He gets hit by the hammer, and you see him like following it. Yeah. As it carries him through the air,
I was like, throws him off towards the mountain.
Yeah, they did not need to make them kids in this show. Like we kind of like totally like glossed over the fact that they did not need to be kids.
They didn't have to, but now they can sell more figures.
True. They didn't need to be children, but that first fight knew how to utilize that perfectly. You had a small little character, not just like he's giant and this is a normal human-sized person. No, he's tiny. He doesn't have as much reach with his arms and legs. And so they knew how to really emphasize that size differential by having him have to really maneuver around this bigger character. By the time we get to Gomah, there's barely any of that. We rarely see them utilize their environment, utilize their abilities against them. There's just so little in terms of actual good choreography. It's just animators going wild with really cool shots for 3 episodes.
You bring up an interesting point about choreography in terms of like using the scope and scale of characters and how they did it very well in the Tamagami fight. And it does make me think of some of the early stuff between Great Ape Baby Vegeta and Goku. Like that part where he's grabbed his finger, drags it across his body, and throws him using his own hand. There is fun stuff that you can do in like dynamic fights like that. I know Gomah isn't that much bigger, but it is interesting to see how they use like small guy, little guy dynamic sometimes in a very creative way.
Yeah. And that's why, like, when people...
Small guy, big guy. I'm not sure if I said that right.
Yeah, small guy, little guy. Anyway, I really... I wasn't trying to be so down on those episodes just to hate. I was down on them because they were genuinely, to me, failing to do something with all of this effort. All these amazing animators are in here.
All the meat, none of the spice.
Yeah, you have, like, all these... Honestly, no. All the spice, none of the meat. That's the problem. You've got all this gorgeous animation, but for what? What are we doing with it? Are we doing anything creative? Are we telling a good story with it? No. We're just having the characters look cool and punch each other. And no, that's not good Dragon Ball. That's mediocre Dragon Ball. That's
Heroes.
Well... See, the interesting thing there is that it's almost all bad animation and the same shit over and over. Except for that one fucking scene. And that scene was creative as hell. That scene went...
Hearts Goku. I will continue to stand that.
Yeah. And look, that's Shimanuki. That animator was all like all over... Well, not all over Daima, but he was all over Super. He had a couple scenes in Daima. He was the Kamehameha.
Okay.
Yeah.
That tracks.
Oh, no, sorry. In the Tamagami fight. He was the
Still tracks.
Yeah. And
I'll say this: almost every Kamehameha in this show fucking slapped.
Yeah, no, this show treats the Kamehameha like a fucking death laser from God.
It is an exclamation point. It is respected.
Yes, A+. And that's why I just wanted to see these amazing animators give us something more than just cool poses and flurries. And that's why I was so nonplussed about those several episodes we had of fighting, because I just wasn't getting anything from it. Like, and if you were, and if you found that entertaining, I don't think you're wrong. Like,
yeah, I did.
Hey,
yeah.
For me though, I saw stuff like that for that first Tamagami fight, which is technically Tamagami 3. Very confusing shit. I'm just going in terms of chronological.
3-star Tamagami.
Yeah. That fight's choreography is amazing, and I was just hoping for a little bit more of that.
I also really like Goku versus Glorio. I mean, it was always going to be a stomp, but goddamn, was it beautiful?
Yeah, and that's largely just because, well, there was a little bit of the flurry stuff here and there. The big sell on that was these big attacks that then had these great looking responses, like the lightning with Goku just sticking out his hand. I was like, oh, bro.
Yeah.
Like, this is wild.
Yeah, and you know that he never stood a chance, and Goku knows that too. But like, it had such a satisfying ending too. When Goku goes Super Saiyan, just shows him, like, taps him on the back, like, you lost, bud. Like, fucking great.
So Totally Not Mark made a really good point of, if that had been adult Goku doing that, it would have looked like bullying. But with Kid Goku, it looks like, hey, let me inform you of the situation, bro.
I'm gonna teach you something real quick.
Yeah, this is a
Sit down.
This is a friendly way for me to tell you the situation. And I love that. And so yeah. But look, that had less fighting, but was more compelling. Why? Because you didn't have a bunch of the same bullshit over and over for 2.5 episodes. You didn't have Gomah being smacked down for several episodes for him just to heal over and over, and for them to finally acknowledge that fact as if, oh, it's healing him over and over. Yeah, bro, we have eyes. We could see that.
And you've been dealing with regenerating enemies since Cell, so...
Yeah. So, like, can we just cut, like, all of that Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta stuff in those episodes in half, have that awesome final flash, and then, like, not have to sit through that for fucking ever? Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it did have, like, the animation did fucking slap. Like, we agree on that. While the choreography might be limited and to some unsatisfying.
Yeah, and it's... I think that a lot of people are excited because we haven't seen animation this good for Dragon Ball since Broly. And... you know, one would think, oh, well, that's not been that long ago. It's
been a while.
It's been a while. And we had an entire movie between then, which had good animation. Don't get me wrong. Oh, you want to talk about a movie with great choreography and animation? Damn, that shit popped off. Like, I'm sorry, Superhero is... I still think Superhero is really good. It's got so many problems, but I will fight to the death for that movie.
Yeah, and we haven't had... like animation in Dragon Ball show this good since probably the finale of the Tournament of Power.
Yeah, also that. The fact that this show is gorgeous beginning to end with some spots that don't look good. And no, I'm sorry, don't look as good. Because there's no point. This show never melts like either GT... like, it never melted.
We never had an episode like the finale of the Baby arc where everything looked like they were sliding PNGs across the screen.
We never had a single episode in the show that looked as like, well, half the episodes in the Resurrection F arc. Like, yeah, no, it's genuinely amazing how good it looks start to finish. And literally the worst it ever looked was in an episode where things got messed up. Like, it's very obvious. Looking back at it, hearing some behind the scenes.
You're talking about Kirkland Ginus, right?
Kirkland Ginus. They sucked. That whole thing sucked. And it sucked because of scheduling problems that happened. And you know what? All right, fine.
It happens.
Yeah. Like, apparently, by the way, this show was in production for apparently 3 years. And the final episode of the series was like, it was being wrapped up. Gosh, hold on. I might be misremembering. It was like maybe a month or two before it aired.
That's crazy.
Yeah. They took their time with this show, which is good. Like, I'm not going to say that's bad, but it is really interesting to me that there was so much time from beginning to end of it. And I can really see where some of it kind of fell apart here and there, because they probably had, like, you'd think, oh, well, they have all the time in the world. Well, it's not like those animators are just gonna like wait around.
Yeah,
they got other shit to do. So yeah, it seems like the production schedule wasn't just, oh, all the pre stuff is done, now you have 3 years to animate it. It was, no, this was produced over 3 years.
Yeah, it was still being written and storyboarded. Like, even, well, it probably wasn't being storyboarded as the show was releasing, but
no, probably not.
Yeah, still, like, getting to that point is crazy.
It's
and I know technology has made some of that easier, but it's still an arduous, painful process.
The fact that you have, like, Toei Animation is frustrating in a lot of ways, but they're also kind of amazing in others, in that they are kingmakers. They find animators from all over and then elevate them in ways that is really impressive. They're known for being a studio that they've got a lot of problems, but we got Mamoru Hosoda from them. We're about to get Megumi Ishitani from them, who, by the way, you want to watch one of the best One Piece things you've ever seen in your goddamn life? Watch Fan Letter. It's on Netflix. You will cry. It is basically a standalone thing that I would recommend to somebody who's never even seen One Piece. And Megumi Ishitani was one of the directors for Dragon Ball Super. I'm not sure she worked on Daima much at all, but like Toei Animation, they get some amazing people in there, and they get people from all over the world. Vincent Chansard, one of the best animators I have ever seen in my fucking life, was working on One Piece. And in fact, he actually had to go out of his way and say, "Hey, so I'm getting really frustrated with Toei Animation because I keep sending them all these cuts and then they cut them down. He's giving them too much. He's giving them too much animation, and then they're like, we don't have the time to like in between all this. We can't do it."
That's got to be heartbreaking.
Yeah, which, well, I mean, that's what we gathered, because he was like, hey, they're changing my cuts, they're cutting stuff down, and from my perspective, it's a matter of, well, it's probably one for consistency, because they're trying to keep things consistent with earlier scenes, and maybe Chansard went a little bit too far off, but also because, you have so much stuff, you can't in between it all.
You can't like fit everything into a 20, well, I guess in One Piece's case, a 10-minute episode.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's interesting to me, because I want to say that, because when it comes to this series in particular, there's a lot of stuff. Like, it is a series that was made over 3 years by a bunch of really talented people, and you can tell that it was made over 3 years by a bunch of talented people.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess that kind of like leads us to the end of it all, which in terms of wrap up, I was very satisfied with how they wrapped up what we got.
Yeah, I don't have many notes. I mean, besides the fact that, again, I do not like their explanation for Super Saiyan 4. That sucked. That's lame. I would have actually just been fine with never did it. I would have been way better than,
there were a lot of people out there. It's like, Namekians have the ability to unlock potential in people. Is like, yeah, I get that, but that doesn't make it less of an ass pull.
But hearing Goku say that he was working on it beforehand and he didn't know if it would work, that was lame. I did not like that. Please. What was even the point of all the stuff with Never then?
I mean, of course, Goku's still training.
No, yeah,
there's never a question about that. But it's like
not
that he was
though.
working on the new form. I'm wondering if like that can't just be a translation issue.
No. Nobody's like, I would have heard about that by now. No, sure. that was flat out just he just says, yeah, I was working on it. I didn't know if it would work. Bad. Also, Shin sucks. Shin, fuck you. I liked Shin throughout this entire show. I am now anti-Shin, because that one scene where he goes up to Arinsu and is like, you still have a sliver of good in you. You should be the Daimon King. Are you fucking with me, bro? Bro, are you for real? What the fuck?
I did like that we ended up with Ku being the leader.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that was perfect for what we got. Goku was the right choice. He's shown good judgment. He's shown that he's a good boy.
Yeah.
And he immediately turned the place like around. It's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna rule by council here because I don't think a king should just have unilateral power.
Yeah.
Like, I'll have the final say, but I need people to inform me about, like, you know, what are the impacts of these decisions. Like, yeah, no, good leader. Good call.
We're not jumping straight to a democracy, but we are having representatives of all these different places, at least here.
Now, I'm choosing the representatives, but I'm a good boy, so it's fine.
Yeah, it really is just a matter of, like, damn, he's so good. He's such a good boy. We'll deal with this imperialism. We will accept the terms of your imperialism on behalf of you being such a good boy.
It's not like history hasn't had actual, like, good-hearted leaders. They just usually get overthrown by militaristic despots. Ah, the world.
Yeah.
So, in terms of endings, GT is probably the best ending Dragon Ball has ever had up until this point. This kind of gives us more of an evergreen, the adventure goes on kind of ending that a lot of Dragon Ball has given us so far.
It's hard to say, like, because when it comes to endings, Super's not an ending. Super has a really great climax for the ending of its arc, but its ending to the show doesn't really...
It's another evergreen, something's coming, because they still haven't passed the end of Z.
Yeah. In terms of this one, it's a fine ending.
Yeah.
And like, it wraps up this arc, this story. And
that's satisfying. We got a lot of fun character moments. They went off the rails with Bulma's animation in that post-credit scene.
So I got the name of the animator on that one wrong, unfortunately.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know. I feel bad. I thought it was Ryo. I thought it was Ryo Onoshii. It was apparently another guy who's incredibly good, and I would have to look it up right now, and I'm not going to do that. Hey, Nice, put the name over here. This guy's really cool, and apparently he's like renowned in the industry, and we see why, because that post-credit sequence is fucking
gorgeous,
insane.
Yeah, again, I know we're glossing over some stuff, but like the character moments in this are fantastic. Bulma's "I won't take a bath with you again" will, I think, forever be in the fandom lexicon. Like, that's perfect.
What this show does for Vegetables, for the Vegeta Bulma shippers, which yeah technically
you should. That's fine. It's canon.
The fact that they are eating, this was a banquet for them. They got everything they wanted, and it's so good, and I love that for them.
Yeah. No, it's great. Love that.
And even, oh gosh, and even, you know what? Goku's saying, honestly, hold on. Goku's saying, like, oh, I was training for this form. I didn't know if it would work. I guess we'll call it Super Saiyan 4. As much as I hate that, and we could have just gone with him, like, I have no idea. I think Neva unlocked something in me. I'm going to call it Super Saiyan 4. Could have been that. But the payoff to that, which was Vegeta saying,
it's not Super Saiyan 3, it's Ultra Vegeta 1.
Yes. Also, I love that. I love the fact that he says Ichigo. He doesn't say Ultra Vegeta 1. I love the fact that for some reason he switches it to the Japanese pronunciation. Like, that's so weird. He doesn't do that. He's always the guy who's using English. He's the big Banga Taku guy. He's the final flash. And then he's like, Ultra Vegeta Ichigo. And I'm like, okay. That's weird, but also I love this. Please, like, what a great joke. That feels like kind of something that
It is very Vegeta.
It also kind of feels like something that we would have come up with, and I'm happy with that. I'm pretty happy with that.
It aligns with our sensibilities. It's
yes.
Like, have no issue with it.
It's such a, like, this is why this finale is so good for me, because I can look, y'all, I can forgive some bullshit if you make me laugh, all right? Mm-hmm. If you make me laugh and you make me care about the characters and you get me invested in these moments, I will.
He forgives a lot of bullshit if you make him laugh. That's why we've been friends for so long.
Exactly. But no, I just found that the entire last episode to be so charming and funny, and its big action moment actually succeeded for me because it was really fucking cool. Mm-hmm. And it literally fundamentally changed the world around them, and that's so neat. I think that's so fucking spectacular. And so yeah, this whole final episode, as much as the build up to it had its problems for me, I love this payoff. I will sing its praises.
So at the end of the day, show's done. We know there are issues in the middle. We know that there are qualms throughout. How do you feel about Dragon Ball Daima?
I think it's like I said, GT is probably the lowest on the list for me. After that, though, when it comes to Super and Daima, they're kind of like neck and neck in a way, because they've got their own qualities about them that are really, really interesting. And some of them, again, I think the highs of Super are some of the best of Dragon Ball. Its lows are the worst of Dragon Ball. So trying to compare it to Daima, which is a series with some really good moments, nothing so amazing. Like, again, that Kamehameha and the first Tagami fight are some of the best. Like, they're contenders.
This is
my
hands
favorite
down,
moments.
without a doubt, some of the best animation Dragon Ball has seen.
Also that. But if we're talking like consistently all the way through, better than Super, but I don't know. It's hard. I like it though.
Better on the averages, but doesn't hit like
yeah.
the same level of peak.
Yeah. And so I guess at the end of the day, you know what? Someone asked me the fuck, marry, kill, and this says it for you. Kill GT, fuck Super, because, you know, it's going to be into some shit you're not into, but the climax is going to blow your mind. And the other one, consistent all the way through. You marry Daima because it is consistent from top to bottom. You are never going to be miserable. You're never going to feel like sometimes you're going to look at you're going to look at that other girl and you're going to be like, damn, sometimes I wish I had that. But then you look back at your life and I'm like, but you know what? I'm good here. I'm happy here. Yeah, and that's Daima.
I would choose Daima over Super probably 7 or 8 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I think as a binge, it is probably, you know, not only more digestible just in terms of the fact that, again, you're not watching 100 some episodes. This is a nice little adventure. And while it's got some issues in the middle, I think overall it is a more fun ride, a more fun, consistent ride.
Yeah,
like this is one that I could line up for again.
I'll
probably binge through it again at some point. I don't think, like, if I do, it'll be a very long time, and I will skip a lot of episodes if I ever watch through Super again.
Oh God, yeah. I remember there was a part of me that very momentarily thought maybe we could do Super. I mean, we did GT. And I thought it over, and ultimately, gun to my head, I was like, no, because it's going to be just like, there are going to be those moments where it's like, yeah, we're going fuck yeah, but I could not weather the bad parts of that again. I couldn't do it. You couldn't make me.
It's too long for me too. Like,
yeah,
there's so much of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit that really very easily could have been cut down.
And the filler that it has doesn't even rise to the level of Z's filler, which Z's filler, not that bad in terms of overall anime filler that I recall.
Yeah, it's got it. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of Z's filler was just stuff that was happening like during.
It was
canon.
Fun little flavor stuff. I liked the Otherworld tournament. The Garlic Jr. arc is a fun little story, if not a great or compelling one, and it makes no sense on the power scaling side.
Yeah, ultimately, I guess, yeah, just Daima is. Again, the fuck, marry, kill analogy works so well for me. I can very easily just slot them into place. And the fact that I would marry Daima, I think, says a lot for it.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about this for about 2 hours, and I feel like overall, it's a solid show.
Yes.
Like, thumbs up.
Like,
good job. Very happy about it. Every time I think back about it, I miss Toriyama, man.
Yeah,
that is always going to be the elephant in the room on this one.
Yeah, so we haven't talked. We barely talked about it at all while we were going over.
We dedicated a good chunk of our adult lives to the Dragon Ball fandom in making a parody of his work.
Yeah. It was. I remember when it happened, and I had no idea how to process it, actually, because I was never huge on all of Toriyama's work. I haven't gone through a lot of it. I haven't read through all of Dr. Slump. I only finished Sandland over the last year, after it happened, and I was like, fuck, okay, I'm gonna go watch Sandland and then feel sad.
Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball, I've consumed everything from Dragon Ball almost. There are some video games that I just won't touch, and some side comics I don't care about. But Dragon Ball was one of those things where between the ages of 10 and like 25, if a new Dragon Ball thing came out, I was there. And it got me into wanting to voice act. It got me into voice acting. It helped me meet some of the people, the closest people in my life, and changed my life. And Dragon Ball wouldn't have been the same with anybody else. I think it's been proven over and over that Toriyama's touch on the series was fundamental to making it what it was.
He had just such a special blend of appreciation of action and such a goofy sense of humor. Nothing in his world is sacred, but that's what made it special.
And he had this great grasp on making characters almost insufferable and yet still bringing them around to be likable. And that's the crazy thing. If you look at some of these characters under a microscope, you think, man, these are kind of terrible people. And yet, when I was reading it and watching it, I loved them.
They had their own little spark, their own little charm, something that you can't learn in a writing class.
Yeah, and I loved that. And I think that was what was so appealing, is that he created a world that was so special and interesting and fun and engrossing without it ever getting too serious or self-serious or dramatic. Like, he had his dramatic moments, obviously. He learned to be more of a dramatic writer as time went on, when the action became bigger and he started like really delving into these big melodramatic, there are these big super dramatic moments, these epic movements with like fucking space alien tyrants and murderous cyborgs from the future,
evil wizards.
Yeah. But there was always this feeling underneath all of it, where once that was over, once you peeled it back, you still found this charm that was undeniable. And
the world is greater for having him and lesser for having lost him.
It's weird to think that we're going to have a Dragon Ball without him in the future, because they're just,
it's inevitable. It's too big.
Yeah. And it's just weird because I never want, I try to push it out of my mind when watching the show that this was the final thing, as far as we know, that has his fingerprints on it. I remember, like, back when it happened, I talked a little bit about on, like, Daizenshuu EX. They did a whole bit, and I talked on there. And I remember what I said was, I can't wait to kind of talk with everybody about the show as it's coming out. I can't wait for us as a fandom to be able to talk about the show and enjoy it as that last thing from Toriyama. And I know a lot of people, I got pretty down on the show, but, like, I love Dragon Ball, okay? Trust me, I love Dragon Ball, and Toriyama, it had more of an effect on my life than any other artist alive.
It's hard to deny that at this point.
A lot of people, I saw some people were like, wow, why didn't Team 4 Star talk more about it? And frankly,
it's so hard.
I don't...
Who are we to say anything about this man?
I felt like the post that we made about it kind of said everything, because anything after that just kind of felt like, oh yeah, what are we going to do? Are we going to just make it a giant video where we talk about Toriyama? Like, we didn't know.
It feels wrong.
Yeah.
It felt wrong to do that because it felt like making content.
Yeah, no, and I was terrified of that. There was this part in my mind that was like, oh God, please, I do not want to make a video just to be like, oh, this tribute to Toriyama from Team 4 Star. Like, I'm not even sure that if he even knew who we were, and I'm not even sure he would have liked us if he'd found out. But I loved his work, and I do want to just take a moment to say that it's a world without Toriyama now. And it's been for the last year, and the last episode came out on the anniversary of his death, and it's insane to me because it still doesn't feel real. I was I keep waiting for it to really sink in, and it does every time I think, oh, the next Dragon Ball thing, and then my mind reminds me it's not going to have him there. And that hurts. It still hurts every time. Because, God, especially looking at Daima and just feeling his energy there, even with all of the problems, that energy that is undeniably his, I just don't know how anyone is going to be able to recreate that. And so, like, the idea of Dragon Ball continuing without him hurts. I still want them to try, obviously. I don't want them to just, not do anything with it if they have the idea, if they have the drive. But
it's his legacy. It's his spirit living on in those that truly loved what he made.
Yeah.
The last thing, the last thing that anybody wants this to become is just like another just corporate property. Like, it needs to have people who love this property working on it. And there are so many out there. I can't think of many like creators, and I use that word with all reverence that I can, that have made a property so powerful that it bridged like all the way across the Pacific to to North America, to the entire world.
Yeah.
In a way that Toriyama did.
The entire world fell in love with Dragon Ball. Insanely.
I can't think of many others off the top of my head. Like there's like George Lucas and Star Wars. That's a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
I guess Marvel, like Stan Lee and Marvel, and Jack Kirby and all the people involved in that. But Stan Lee, Bruce Timm and Batman. But like the fact that Toriyama is just that guy.
Yeah.
What the hell else is there? What could we possibly have?
We live in a world without Akira Toriyama, and it is a world made worse by that fact. And I'm just praying that the thing that we all fell in love with, I want us to be able to come back to it, and I want us to all to be able to celebrate it and hold it up as the thing that changed our lives and entertained us and connected with us on a deep level. That's what I want. So,
what else is there?
Oh, fuck, man. Dragon Ball Daima. Huh?
Yeah, I feel like that's it, man.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Daima. It was a magical show.